Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
And we welcome you to this edition of the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Brian Murphy. No Jeff Sharon on this episode. Now, we don't want to kind of make light of this because it is a serious situation, academic right now in the world right now, with health being a big focus. But Jeff is under the weather, Murph, and we both decided, well, if you're under the weather, we don't want you on the show in case that spreads, right?
Yeah, even though none of us are in the same room at the same time during this podcast, we just figured it's better safe than sorry not to have Jeff on the show regardless. I guess we still could have, but
I didn't want to take the chance, all right? I didn't want to take the chance, so I rather...
No, he does not have the novel coronavirus. He has pink eye and I think the flu, so that's what's happening.
We don't know if he got that from watching the UCF men's basketball game against SMU on Wednesday night, which Murph was in person. He'll try to explain that game, which will be fun to hear Murph's explanation for that game as UCF sort of won. We'll talk about that game.
That was a hell of a segue there, Elo. That's an amazing segue.
Thank you. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about baseball, nationally ranked. They will be hosting Butler this weekend. They're coming off a winning 3 out of 4 against CSUN, and, of course, a midweek win over JU. UCF Softball is ranked. Took it in the chin against Florida State. I'll explain what that means as they head out west for a lengthy road trip. And then later in the show as well, we'll preview the women's basketball. They're in the American Conference Championship Tournament. Where do they stand as far as the NCAA Tournament as we speak? So we'll discuss all of that and much more. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, on UCF_Banneret. Of course, you can check us out on all your favorite podcast devices. Make sure you rate and give us a like, preferably. And subscribe to all your favorite podcasts where you can listen to all our episodes of Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. But we begin, Murph, of course, with football. Yeah, we're only a month away, Murph. We're a month away from the 2020 Spring Game Edition, ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody's got it circled. It is the game that everybody's circled in the date. An early afternoon, first weekend of April, spring football, and we're a month away. And they're practicing. We're practicing, people. They're not. I don't know what they're doing because it's not open to the media except for what 10 minutes of the start of practice. Murph, what? Give us a breakdown of what you see over there.
15 minutes of the greatest set of stretches and warm-ups you have ever laid eyes on, Eric.
Woo! And then eventually players talk. And then, of course, on Wednesday, McKenzie Milton was throwing. He was throwing, Murph. He's throwing. Social media got excited.
I mean, he was throwing, and we didn't see anything like that today from McKenzie. We did see him. He was out there this morning, going through drills and throwing some passes and going through read option stuff and stretching, but nothing like we saw yesterday in the clip of him basically taking a snap, coming back, pivoting off of his left leg, and throwing to his left. I mean, yes, I know it's still very much up in the air whether or not he plays this year or next year or ever again, but you have to admit, Eric, it was nice to see. That's all it was. It was a lovely little piece of content from UCF football showing us that McKenzie Milton is still out here on the grind trying to make his way back.
Absolutely. I mean, he's moving around. By the way, I can exclusively report he was at UCF Softball Wednesday night for the UCF Florida State game with a bunch of other football players. He looked pretty good moving into the stands there, Murph. Sat pretty well. So
He looked pretty good moving into the stand.
I'm just giving you the reports. It's football. People want to know what's going on. I provide the information. I know you guys were busy at basketball, so I could provide you what I knew in softball. But in all seriousness, I mean, obviously, we make light of this, but it is spring practice. I know Coach Heupel spoke on Friday. You were there for that, and he gave the typical coach talk about we got to improve on everything and things like that. Just what have you gathered from all these practices? What is, if anything, has stood out? If anything, any tones, anything that you've gathered from all the chatter going around there?
I mean, Dillon Gabriel is still very interesting, and Dillon is understated, right? He's still not going to give you a massive quote. But, we've heard coming into this week and from assistant coaches like Joey Halsley, the new quarterbacks coach, about just how hard Dillon is working. And so we got to talk to Dillon Gabriel today for about 5 minutes, where we asked him about his work ethic and what he's trying to do to get better this spring. And basically, it was he made it very clear. He is in the building 12 hours a day. He's in UCF football headquarters 12 hours a day doing either weights or film study or trying to learn the offense more or practicing because he wants to get this team back, this program back to where he thinks it should be. And in that mind, and that means to him where it should be means undefeated. And so I thought that was pretty captivating stuff. And here's what we also got to hear from Dillon Gabriel today in the morning of what was our second spring availability. Here's Dillon Gabriel.
For sure. I'm just a lot more comfortable with the guys, obviously, and then just know how practices go and just the little things, really. But, yeah, I'm loving it.
When Coach Heupel says you've been living in the building, what does that mean?
I guess you could say 6 to 6, I guess you could say. Just every time it's not schoolwork or tutoring, I'm in there. Either it's extra work, watch film, whatever I can do to get better. So.
Where can you get better? Just looking at your game, obviously you're learning a lot as a freshman, but going into your sophomore year, what parts of your game can get better that you're working on?
I think everywhere. Just consistent getting better in everything I do. But yeah, all around.
Coach Halsley said last week that they almost have to hold you back at sometimes for doing too much. What's driving you this spring?
Obviously not doing what I wanted, which was undefeated. That was our goal. We didn't meet that. Whenever I don't meet a goal, or we don't meet a goal, we're disappointed. So we're gonna do. Personally, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get back to where we should be.
From a physical standpoint, what kind of strides have you made in the weight room? Have you put on weight? Have you tried to do that since you got here? Have you seen some gains there?
For sure. I feel a lot more, leaned up. Body feels filled in. I guess I gained a lot of weight coming in early. Not the way I wanted to, but now I was able to gain it the way I like. So.
How much weight have you gained?
5 pounds, so just from 190, 195. So.
Coach Halsley also said that they're trying to. You want to do some things, but they're not letting you do some things. What are they kind of holding you back from, or things you? Just things like that.
I just think just physical. Sometimes I come out here after our workouts just to do some extra work, but they said it's not always physically what you got to do. Sometimes just getting the film up more. So I've obviously focused on more of that, but I just wanted personally to make sure I was physically ready for spring because I knew mentally we're going to get a lot of reps at that. So.
How much time have you thought about that season opener? I mean, I know you got spring and summer, but that's a game that's going to have two really good sophomore quarterbacks, guys who, you talk about the two top freshmen in the nation, I'd say it was Dillon Gabriel and Sam Howell in North Carolina. Have you kind of thought about that matchup and how big that'll be from a quarterback standpoint?
Not at that standpoint, just in the case for us, it's a big game. Every game, obviously, is a big game. Every time you take a game lightly, you see what happens. So, my main focus is every game is its own individual game. We've got to focus on it week to week. So,
Dillon, do you feel like this is your job to? You were started last year, but do you feel like it's your job to keep going through spring and the offseason?
That's up to the coaches. All I can do is play my best, go out there and give my team the best chance to win. And personally, that's all I'm focused on is check in somehow. I don't care how, just winning every game. So,
how does it feel to see Casey out there moving around a little bit better?
Personally, I love it. It's super fun. It reminds me of the days back home when we practiced at our high school. So it's super fun. So I'm enjoying it.
What have you seen from some of these younger wide receivers? I mean, some of the older guys, Trey and Marlon and Jacob, we know they're going to be there, but I know this is a big spring for some of the young guys to start to emerge. What have you seen from that group and who has stood out?
Personally, I think Omari Johnson, obviously, but all around, everyone's taking strides. I think, this is our obviously second year in the offense, third year for some guys. So we're just taking it to another level, whichever way we can, which is just being more defined in everything we do. So.
Changing center for you, what's important about that relationship and developing the chemistry?
Me and Matt have been friends for a while, even before, just because he'd be here a lot. But me and Matt, I mean, we're study buddies. We study astronomy together, so we're super close, and yeah.
What do you say about Jaylon Robinson?
Super quick guy. I think he's really shifty, really good after the catch, but at the same time, he gets open, and that's huge in our offense, and he's a playmaker. So
once the spring is over, how would you gauge what a successful spring means to you?
I'd just say competing and learning to, when things aren't going right, how to, come back from that, but at the same time, just driving and pushing every day, not letting the everyday grind get to us, and then, making strides every single day to get better. So
there's Dillon Gabriel. He obviously said he's not exactly looking forward to the matchup against North Carolina and Sam Howell, which I know people are going to make a lot out of as we lead up to that game. But he's obviously, he's eager to play again, certainly. But I think he will not get caught up in the player-by-player comparison that is destined to come in the lead up to that game. And you heard him mention near the end of that interview, Jaylon Robinson, a transfer from Oklahoma, who sat out last year, was here and learned under Gabe Davis, really learned about work ethic. And he is going to be, I think, a big part of this offense this year. Jaylon, his game is pretty simple right now. He is fast. His nickname is Flash. He's been known as Flash since his freshman year of high school when he was out in Texas. And he's here basically to bring more speed to this offense, which I know at times could be, don't they have enough speed? Like, well, you can never have enough. And he said one of the reasons why he is a Knight is because he wanted to be where the speed is. And so that's why he's here at UCF. We got to talk to Jaylon Robinson as well today. And here's what he had to say about coming to UCF, what he likes so far about the offense, and learning from Gabe Davis.
I made the decision to come to UCF because it was God's plan, actually. I'm here now, and I'm accepting it, and I love it here. So, yeah.
What was your visit like? What really convinced you when you saw what was around here?
I started to hear about UCF, going undefeated and their speed of their offense and just being speed. I'm a speedy guy, so I want to be where the speed is.
So that's something that really appealed to you, like
it really
being
was.
A part of an offense like this.
They were very explosive, and I just like the way they run their routes. I knew Coach Wide as well when he recruited me in Houston, so I thought it was just a good fit for me.
Describe your game. What do you do better than others?
I just need the ball. I'm fast, quick twitch guy. I make moves and I find his zone.
So when guys, we ask about receivers, they talk about flash. So obviously that's a nickname you have. How long have you had that nickname? When did you develop that nickname?
I probably started about my freshman year of high school.
What have you learned from your teammates, the other wide receivers?
Other wide receivers, that we've been working, work ethic, and we got to push ourselves to be great. Right now we're preparing for North Carolina, and it starts now, and we're working. Now
that you've gotten a chance to learn a little bit about this offense, has it been everything you thought it would be? Has it been a good fit for you?
A very good fit. I'm able to do what I need to do. I have a lot of option routes. I'm able to be free with what I do and make a decision on what the coverage is, and that's a freestyle to me, and I like that. You
talked about how you like how they run their routes. What, in that sense specifically, what appeals to you about this offense?
Just I like the fast pace as well. Like I said, we have option routes. I'm able to just freestyle and read the coverage and run to the open grass. So that's really what stands out to me.
Describe your connection with Dillon and the other quarterbacks.
I think I have a connection with all the quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks are good. They're all good. They all know how to throw the ball, and the coaches are working with them, and we're working with them. So we're always working.
Did having a year off, have to sit out because of transfer, did that kind of maybe help you in a way, maybe kind of adjust to some things here?
It did help me a lot. It actually helped me a lot to learn how much passion I have for the game. It hurt sitting out that 1 year, and I think it was good for me. I was able to watch a lot of people like Gabe. He was big influence on me. Hard work ethic. He worked hard day and out, and now it's my turn, and I'm going to step up and try to fill in what he's done here.
What did you learn from Gabe?
Work ethic. He works in the morning, afternoon, off season, spring, after workouts, after practice, catching 200 balls, and who knows what he does when we're not looking.
What's the part of your game that you're focused on more right now about improving as spring goes forward?
Probably catching the ball, more contested catches, and just using my speed to its full ability.
As a fast guy, do you think you can contribute in other ways besides wide receiver, like in the return game or anything like that?
Oh,
Is
of
that
course.
something you have experience doing?
Yes, sir. I plan on playing punt return, kick return. You know, Otis has the punt return. I'll come in whenever he needs it. Hopefully, I think kickoff return is questionable who's going to be back there, and hopefully I can get the job.
How much are you looking forward to? I forgot they didn't play last year. How much are you looking forward to the season opener? I mean, I know it's a long way away, but it's a big game. North Carolina coming here. Is it something you think about every day when you go out to practice? How you got to be ready for that?
I've been waiting for this since I got here in May, and I'm so ready. I really can't explain it, and I guess y'all see that on game day.
So there's Jaylon Robinson, the redshirt sophomore wide receiver. It'd be exciting to see what Heupel and crew dial up for him this year, and the big plays he kind of makes this year. Otherwise, it's spring practice, right? So it is what it is. Let's not try to overanalyze things. It's nice to see guys working out and getting in shape, getting to hear from them, and but let's not go nuts. There are more important things, I think, to talk about. And here's the transition that I was going to bring up that I'll just be very clear with. Jaylon Robinson is from Fort Worth, Texas. Eric, what is happening in Fort Worth next week?
That's the American Conference Men's Basketball Championship Tournament, Murph.
Oh, baby, we are almost there. We only got one game left until I set flight for Fort Worth.
Well, if you could survive one more UCF basketball game, the roller coaster that is UCF basketball. You know, there used to be a roller coaster on the court at Addition Financial Arena,
yes.
And they could have that would have been a perfect thing to have on the court on Wednesday night as UCF jumped out to a 19-0 lead over SMU, led 33-14 at the half, only to lose the lead, trail at one point in the second half, and I'll let you describe the inning because I can't do it justice. UCF holds on, and I mean hold on, to win 61-58 to improve to 15-14 on the year, 6-11 in the American. Colin Smith led the way, really played a great game, 19 points, 7 boards, a block, and a steal, and questionable pass. We'll leave it as that at the end of the game that almost cost the team, as you'll describe in the game there. Darren Green had 13 points. Brandon Mahan scored 12, including 2 free throws late in the game. They put him up 3 in the game. But, Murph, you were in the building. What a bizarre game. UCF led by 19 at the half and then ended up trailing, halfway through the second half, was outscored 44-28 in the second half. A real simple 2 questions for you. How many times did you have to change your story about this game during the game? And number 2, what happened here?
Well, one, yes, I had to change my story quite a bit, while I was writing it, which is always fun. It's exactly. I mean, when they go up 19-0, you're like, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be an easy night. But I should have never done that, because if we've learned one thing this season, Eric, and we've said it on the podcast numerous times, and this does not not include just UCF. This is the entire conference at large. This conference, men's basketball AAC, is absolutely out of its mind every night. You have no idea what's going to happen, what's going to happen next week in Fort Worth so much fun, because it's just you can't predict it. Why try? So I think the second half, Johnny Dawkins really wasn't didn't say like that UCF made a lot of mistakes or they got complacent. I mean, we even raised in the second half with Johnny after the game, we raised the specter of, did you guys get complacent up by 19? And he goes, no, the SMU just ran really good offense, which they did. They ran a lot of backdoor cuts and baseline drives that really caught the Knights off guard over and over again. And meanwhile, UCF just couldn't get a shot to fall, which is how you go from a 19-point lead at half to, kind of as you were saying, Eric, that lead was cut to 3 by the halfway point of the second half. With 10 minutes in, We'd gone a 19-point lead to 3. But give credit to UCF. They go down 49-48. Strike back, scored the next 5 points, only to see SMU come back yet again, take another lead of a banked-in three-pointer. And then you've got down the stretch, really good defense by UCF, some critical free throws from Colin Smith. That, like you said, that the missed free throw from Colin Smith with about 30 seconds left, which then led to an offensive rebound by Brandon Mahan, a tremendous hustle from him there to draw a foul and get more free throws. Colin was the best player in this game for UCF, and he really was, I thought, the reason why they won this game. He was also the reason why they almost lost it with that pass. I mean, you're up by 3. UCF, after some free throws from Colin and Brandon, up by 3 with about 20 seconds left, and they're passing it around. All you've got to do is kind of hold on to it and wait for them to foul you. Colin, though, who's in the far corner, decides to get, I guess, greedy and decides to loft a ball cross court from the far corner, and it gets picked off. I mean, so all of a sudden,
what was that like? You're watching that. I mean, you're in the media section. As you're watching that play develop, and he starts to throw that pass, what is going through your mind as you're watching this unfold?
No, it's like a slow motion car crash. Like because you knew if that ball was going to leave his hands, that something bad was going to happen, because there was nobody really next to him for him to drop the ball off to. So if he was going to make a pass, he was going to make it travel a long distance and really telegraph it, and the defense would have had a lot of time to recover toward the ball. So as I saw his arms go up and his intent to pass was clear, I just thought to myself, no, he can't. He absolutely can't. There's 15 seconds left. You're up by 3. Just hold. Yeah. You've already made 3 of the last 4 free throws. Just hold. And he does not.
No. I watched it on replay, and it was rough. I knew what happened, and I was rough to watch. And even the building, you could just sense in the building. It's like, oh no! It was like, oh,
because Eric, you know this because you watch it too. Colin was fantastic in that second half. I mean, the block he had,
one of the best blocks I've seen.
The block he had on Tyson Jolly, again, SMU was driving baseline a lot, getting a lot of backdoor cuts. And Colin anticipated one and just absolutely blocked the hell out of one ball, came back down the other end and got rewarded for it, got a basket off of that same possession, but UCF up by 5. He was great in this game, but he also made one of the weirdest decisions I've seen a UCF basketball board make this season. And to his credit, he took full responsibility for it. He called it a bonehead play, and he's basically really happy that this did not end up being a loss, because it would have been on him. If this had been on a loss, he would have got a lot more scrutiny. And to his credit also, so when SMU regained possession, they came back down and took a timeout, and they were set up a play. I don't know what they had drawn up, but what they got was a really forced 3 from the wing, kind of off balance. And the reason why they had to settle for a really forced shot at the buzzer is because Colin was playing tremendous perimeter defense, trapping guys in the corner. He really didn't let that pass affect the way he played on the other end of the game. And so, even Johnny Dawkins at the end of the game, I want to find the exact quote here about Colin. He goes, "Colin had a terrific game for us. I was really proud of his overall game, except the pass." That was it. That's basically it. Colin was great.
He was.
Except for the pass.
He was. And listen, in fairness, we kind of forget this as we cover this. These are 18 to 22-year-olds. They're not 8th year in the NBA. I think we sometimes have high expectations that these guys are going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes that you kind of shake your head sometimes. There's a reason why, they're in college. So it's a bad move. He'll learn from that. Fortunately, it didn't cost them the game. They win the game. What does this win mean? Now, let me, I know it's at the end of the regular season. They got ECU on Sunday. It's senior day. If UCF can win on Sunday, and I don't want to get into all the, what the scenarios are, but if they win this game, they go 16-14, 7-11 in the American. And I think if we're all real honest with each other, Murph, that's about what we expected before the season, didn't we? We were hoping for a winning season, maybe win 7 to 8 games in the conference. considering all the losses, they're kind of what we thought they would be. I know at times it's frustrating, in particular with the Tulane game and things like that, but they're kind of where we thought they would be, wouldn't it? Aren't they?
No, I agree with that. And, I know it's been frustrating for fans to watch this, but you have to understand, we've said this even in the preseason, last year's team is not what you really should expect year in and year out of UCF basketball. That consistency is not there yet. And it may never be here because UCF basketball has just never shown that ability to be a tournament team year in and year out. You're going to have great years, and then you're going to have rebuilding years. And there's been few rebuilding years that have seen so much construction like this one. 9 new guys, transfers, freshmen, just a lot of guys trying to meld together for one season. It's really difficult. And so, yeah, if they win this game, and I'll say this, if they win this game, Temple plays, I think Temple's last game is at Cincinnati, and USF's last game is at home against SMU. If those teams lose and UCF beats East Carolina on Sunday, UCF enters the conference tournament as the 8th seed. And I think coming into the season, that's kind of where we would have them pegged anyway.
Coaches picked them 9th. Coaches picked them 9th. And I think I remember you said the ceiling was anywhere from like 6 to 11. I think you said it's right.
Yeah, like the other ceiling was like 5 or 6 to like 11.
Yeah.
So if they win, I think it's pretty easy to predict that Temple would lose at Cincinnati in the season finale at Temple. Maybe SMU can somehow dust themselves off after a couple of completely heartbreaking games.
What a wild 2-game stretch for SMU. Blow a 24-point lead at home to Wichita State, the second largest lead to be blown this year in college basketball, and then come all the way back the next game on the road, down 19-0, down 19 at the half, come all the way to take a lead and only to lose by 3.
How about SMU if you take the last 13 minutes of their game against Wichita State on Sunday and add in their first 8 minutes against UCF on last night on Wednesday? They in those two stretches, they played about 22 minutes of basketball in which they had been outscored 59-12. That is incredible.
And yet, they're one of 7 teams that we believe can win the tournament in Fort Worth next week, don't we?
Did we? I don't. No. I don't think so.
No, you're off. You're off SMU now. Okay, you're off.
I don't think I ever was on SMU. I'll be clear. I think it's Houston in no particular order. I'll name the teams I think can win: Houston, Cincinnati, Wichita State, Memphis, Connecticut, Tulsa, and then so I guess like SMU would be like at last. They would be like last in that order. What's so weird about SMU is they just don't fit in this conference. People have to understand this conference is all about defense. You look at this conference wide, the AAC is in the bottom 4 among the 32 D1 conferences. They're in the bottom 4 in 3-point percentage and 2-point percentage. Offensively, they just don't do a whole lot. And yet here's SMU, who leads the league in scoring, while being 10th in the league in defense. They kind of play the other brand of basketball. So it's an interesting mix, but I really don't see them winning this tournament. If I had to rank them, they're definitely in the middle of the pack or lower middle of the pack. I would still rather have Connecticut over SMU.
All right. Well, you ruined my segue, but that's good. That's fine.
Oh, no.
I was ready to go there. Look, quick thought before we move on. Senior Day, UCF against East Carolina. Just kind of tell us what do you expect there to see there on Senior Day? Not a big senior class, but then you got East Carolina as one of the best players in the league, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think the story here, and hopefully we get to talk to Matt Milon on Saturday, the day before the game, because really I think the story for this game is Matt Milon. And I know Matt probably hasn't had the overall season that he would have liked. It's been a struggle for him. It's been better of late. But still a struggle for him overall, considering what he did at William & Mary and Boston College. But this is an Oviedo kid who grew up going to UCF basketball games, wanted to play here to finish out his college career, got the opportunity to do that, and this is his last college basketball game, or at least his last college basketball game in that arena, in the arena where he used to watch players play, players like Jermaine Taylor, guys like that. So. That's the story for me for this game, and then we'll see what happens We'll see what happens on the court. Who knows? UCF could go up 30-0, and then we'll be tied at the half because I have no idea what's going to happen next time an AAC game is played.
2:00 tip. Game could be broadcasted on ESPNU on Sunday, UCF and East Carolina. And then we'll find out Sunday night all the brackets and all the schedule. And make a note, this was the segue I was going to do had Murph not disagreed with me on SMU, is we're going to have a special preview, early edition of the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast early this upcoming week coming up. We're going to preview the men's basketball championship from talking Fort Worth, all the key storylines, what UCF. We'll hopefully have a guest. Murph will break it down the field, what's at stake for the league, and what UCF has to do to maybe pull some surprises up in Fort Worth. That's all coming up later early in the week, earlier than normal. It'll be before the American Conference Tournament begins, which will begin on Thursday, which Murph will be at in Fort Worth for all the pageantry.
I don't know when I'm coming back, Elo. I'll be there Wednesday night, and I'm coming back sometime before Monday. Just don't know when.
The big question will be, will Murph be back in time for UCF Butler? Well, we'll preview that series, whether he makes it back or not. Doesn't matter. We'll still talk about it. That's all coming up next. Plus, later, we'll preview the women's basketball championship that gets going this weekend in Connecticut, and then softball is heading out west. You're listening to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Eric Lopez alongside Brian Murphy. Jeff's under the weather. You said he has pink eye, you said earlier?
Yes, he has pink eye.
What, did he go to the Sochi Olympics with Bob Costas?
Oh, God.
I mean,
do people remember that?
I do. I mean, how can you not? If you watch the Sochi Olympics, that's all anybody remembers is Bob Costas hosting the Olympics with a pink eye.
I blacked out on that. I blacked out on the pink eye.
Yeah, so hopefully Jeff gets healthy, but we took the precaution and made sure he did not appear on the show so he could, spread that to us because, we both have things to do. Like cover UCF Baseball this weekend, Murph. UCF nationally ranked 14th, I believe, right? The highest among all the – there's like a million baseball polls. So I'm sorry if I don't keep track of every freaking single poll. How many polls – I mean, I couldn't believe it, Murph. On Monday, I'm following you on Twitter, and you were like breaking down rankings of all the baseball polls from the morning all the way to the late afternoon.
Well, that's because the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association lags every other poll, and there are a lot. There's D1 baseball, which is, I think, the most reputable. Yeah. It's the most well-known, and they are the ones who ranked UCF 14th this week. That's the highest of any poll. Then you got Baseball America. It comes out like shortly after that. Collegiate Baseball News, Perfect Game, USA Today Coaches Poll. All of those come out like before noon, and so you have this cavalcade of polls, and then the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association poll comes out like 4:30 in the afternoon. Like, what's the holdup, guys?
It's that media, anyway, the media, they're getting their media spread or something,
I tell you can't trust the baseball media. All baseball writers are junk. Put that on the record. There we go.
No deadlines evidently over there. Nonetheless,
well,
but
go tell those baseball writers to get a new job. Wait, what am I?
I don't know what you are, Murph. But what we do know is UCF's 12-2. They took 3 out of 4 from CSUN last weekend, as we like to refer to it here as the Murph series, and then follow that up with a shutout win over Jacksonville. So they're 12-2. They get set to host Butler out of the Big East. But let's just kind of go back. You were at every game, all 5 of them. When you include the CSUN series and the JU game, just kind of what was your big takeaway from those 5 games? I know it's a lot of games, but, I mean, to win 3 out of 4 against CSUN, then come back on a midweek and beat Jacksonville, who has been pretty good over the last few years as far as a baseball team. Your thoughts on what stood out?
Yeah, sorry, I'm coughing now. Jacksonville, is kind of – they're not up to the best start, but you're right. A couple of years ago, Jacksonville was a top 30 RPI team. I thought coming out of the CSUN series, what really impressed me was just, again, the overall depth of this pitching staff. It's amazing once you get to look at it. Like, they can run you out there 10 deep as far as pitchers, starters, and relievers. And, I mean, they've really been close to unhittable. Some of these guys have been unhittable. Like, Jaylon Whitehead, I believe, has given up like 3 hits and no runs in his last 11 2/3 innings. Nick Catilla, who's only a freshman, they kind of pitch him in low leverage situations, but he has yet to give up a hit in 5 1/3 innings this year in a number of relief appearances. Jeffrey Hakinson is absolutely blowing people away as the closer of this team. David Litchfield, he's gotten into some jams, but doesn't really allow anything to score. He always finds a way to wriggle out of jams. Ryan Saltonstall, even he is maybe only pitching to one batter, but he always seems to get the guy, at a critical time, he gets the guy out. I think that's something that I just looking through the last 5 games, like, man, this pitching staff is really, really good. And I still have questions about the offense overall. Certainly what we've seen from Jordan Rathbone and freshmen like Pablo Ruiz. Dalton Wingo had a big 4-hit game against Jacksonville. That's big for this offense. But I do have questions about their consistency as far as run scoring as the season goes along. But arm after arm after arm, as the bullpen kind of shows its strength, it's a really, really dominant pitching staff that Coach Lovelady and pitching coach Nick Gotti have put together.
I want to ask you about Jeffrey Hakinson, because you spoke to him in baseball media availability last week. He's been filthy watching him in person. I mean, he's gotten 4 saves in 5 appearances, 15 strikeouts, 1 walk in 6 1/3 innings pitched. And, I go back to the Sunday game against CSUN where the Knights are trying to win the series. Joe Sheridan goes 4 innings, and you could just tell that Lovelady's just trying to build the bridge to get the ball to Hakinson, who hadn't pitched in that series because UCF was able to extend the lead the night before when Whitehead, as you mentioned, he stretched him out to 3 innings in relief to get that 10-5 win against CSUN, allowed Hakinson to be available for a 2-inning save, and he is just almost unhittable. He's only given up 1 hit so far this year in 20 at-bats. You talked to him in media availability. What has changed for him from this year compared to last year?
Well, I think what's great about the most telling stat about Whitehead, and I wish I did have like StatCast stats, and I know that UCF Baseball does, but they're all like proprietary information. So I would love to see that, but I think the most telling stat that I'm aware of is he has faced 20 batters this season. He has struck out 15 of them.
Yep,
that's insane. I think what's worked for Jeffrey is I think I may have mentioned this last week when I just maybe talked about baseball on the podcast, but we already knew he could throw hard. He throws mid-90s. He can get up to like 96, 97. But he didn't really have anything to change it up, to give hitters a different look. Last year he was throwing a slider, but it wasn't a very sharp slider. It was really more of it was like an unintended slurve pitch. And because it didn't have sharp break, hitters could read it well, and he wasn't able to throw it for strikes. This year he's got a slider that's really refined, it's really honed, and he's throwing it for strikes. And that combination now, a fastball-slider combination where he can land both pitches at different locations of the strike zone, that's really, really difficult for a guy who's throwing 96 in college baseball.
Really is. And then now Coach Lovelady's announced the weekend rotation for the Butler series. Colton Gordon will get the ball on Friday night, Trevor Holloway on Saturday, and then you've got Joe Sheridan getting the ball on Sunday. Patterson obviously available out of the bullpen. Any surprises there on that decision? Because obviously 2 of the first 3 weekends we've had a 4-game series, so Patterson has been part of the rotation. Not the case. He wasn't in the rotation in the Auburn series. He came in relief there, and it looks like he'll be in relief, at least available in relief, for this Butler series. Your reaction to that rotation announcement?
Yeah, it's about what I expected. It is the rotation that UCF threw out there against Auburn. I think so far this year, what has been most impressive is the maturation of a Trevor Holloway. And, we expected him to come into this season. He was kind of one of the very few known commodities that we had at this UCF pitching staff because Colton Gordon was a transfer and Joe Sheridan was coming off from major shoulder surgery. Hunter Patterson is a true freshman. Trevor Holloway, had really good moments last year, where he could look dominant. The problem I think for him last year was just the ability to control the zone. And so you can see that in last year, he pitched 26 2/3 innings before having the season cut short due to an injury. He walked 15 guys in 26 2/3, struck out 29. Well, in only 16 innings this year, he's already struck out 27. He's only walked 4. Opponent's batting average at 150. He's been there's no bones about it. He's been the UCF's most dominant starter this season. And Colton Gordon had that amazing start against Auburn. Joe Sheridan's been a fantastic story. And I think because Gordon begins the series and Sheridan tends to end it, that Holloway kind of gets lost in the shuffle. I mean, he pitched game 1 against CSUN on Saturday. It was the only game UCF lost in that series, and he didn't deserve to lose it. I mean, 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 9 Ks. He has walked he has struck out 9 batters in each of his 3 starts this season. He has been their best starter, and I don't think enough attention is being paid to that. But he has really, really been dominant this year.
Yeah, he has. He's gotten electric stuff there, and it's been amazing. It's obviously helped overpower opponents in the line. It's really deserved a better fate in the one loss against CSUN. Holloway was fantastic. The offense just couldn't get anything going against really what CSUN threw. Kind of a junk ball pitcher, a sidearm pitcher there, Murph. I mean, any concerns about that offensively there, that a pitcher like that can throw him off, or is that just one of those things that's baseball that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think it is one of those things. It's going to happen. I mean, Lovelady kind of just shrugged it off after the game because it's such a rare breed. You don't see a lot of rotation starters who top out, basically at the low 80s and live kind of in the mid 70s with this sort of sidearm / 3/4 release, different arm angles, different breaks on sliders. I think the guy's name was Traxel.
Yeah.
He was really, he really confused UCF's hitters. I think it's just, you just don't see that brand of pitcher much. So no, I wouldn't be too concerned because you're just not going to see those many guys still doing that in college baseball and being successful.
You mentioned the offense. They're hitting .293 on the season. Of course, they're led by Jordan Rathbone, who's off to a great start, hitting .340, 3 homers, 16 RBIs. Nick Romano hitting .333, no homers and 8 RBIs. Matt Archer, though, Murph, we knew about his defense going in. Coach Lovelady was raving about his defense, but he's hitting .326 near the bottom of the order, no homers, 7 RBIs. I've been impressed with him, and I was also impressed with the freshman Pablo Ruiz, who hit a multi-home run game in the Jacksonville win, hitting .351 on the year now with 3 homers and 7 RBIs. What's been your thoughts on the freshmen, on Archer and Ruiz?
Yeah, I mean, Ruiz moved up in the order for the game against Jacksonville on Tuesday, actually moved up I believe, I don't know if he was ahead of Dalton Wingo, who had been moved down, or was a spot behind him, but Pablo Ruiz has really established himself as an everyday player. Coming into the year, we thought he'd split time in left field with Rathbone, and when Rathbone was DHing, Pablo in left. With Pablo's bat now, the way he's provided power, extra base hits. I believe he's 11 for his last 23 with 5 extra base hits. He had 2 home runs on Tuesday. They can't take that bat out of the lineup. And you mentioned with him, Matthew Archer, who's been on a hitting streak as well. Kind of looks like a Dustin Pedroia clone. Then Andrew Brate has been a pretty stabilizing player at shortstop. Good defense, which is what UCF has really needed out of the shortstop position. And those guys are all true freshmen. I think the way those guys have produced this early in the year is a huge part of why this team is off to such a successful start. And just talking to Pablo, he does not carry himself like a true freshman. He knows he's good. Lovelady knows he's really good. He also knows that he has a long way to go. But right now, Pablo, I think, believes he belongs on this stage. He belongs in this middle of the lineup. He's not afraid by the moment, and he carries himself with a very evident amount of swagger. He's very confident in his abilities. And so far, he's been tremendous. By the way, his favorite player growing up is Alex Rodriguez.
That's what it was. And he's got that personality that I feel like you need on every baseball team, right, Murph? You know what I mean? Like, there's that guy that just loves to be at the park every day, right? Just lives it, is enjoying it. He's not like, oh, another day of baseball. And I think we have a lot of those guys on this team, which is why I think Lovelady's excited about this roster, because those are his guys. And, as somebody who watched Greg play down at Miami when he was a player, that was the type of player that Greg was. He was the guy that lived at the ballpark, that loved the game. He wasn't the most talented guy per se, but had that infested energy and that swagger that he was going to play baseball and he was going to play confident. Didn't matter what his physical skills was or not. And I think that's why Greg likes this team a lot. And I think Pablo is a great example of that.
Yeah, Lovely will tell you a story about Pablo in fall ball. I mean, he's a freshman, a true freshman in fall ball. And, it can be kind of boring sometimes and kind of mundane and maybe turn into a bit of a grind. And he said Pablo Ruiz is out there, getting guys going, getting guys pumped up for drills and getting guys, gathering guys up to go do more runs, just go running some more. I mean, he's getting guys energized just to do simple, workout routines. And this is a true freshman. You don't see this a whole lot. I think Greg loves that, obviously. And Pablo is just a guy who loves being on the field. He loves playing the game, and he has developed a bit of a catchphrase, I believe, for this team. He has said a couple of times recently about this team, "We're just a bunch of dogs." And you can see, Pablo Ruiz is what they call a diamond dog. He's out there to play baseball, loves the sport. He wants to be out there as much as he can, and when the lights turn on, he's not afraid. He knows how good he is, and he's showcasing that talent pretty well.
Ruiz hit 6th in the lineup against Jacksonville. Dalton Wingo hit 5th. He went down from the 2 spot to the 5 spot, and it worked. Wingo exploded, going 4 for 4. We had a home run, double, 2 runs scored in the game. Coincidence, or do you think that kind of worked? I mean, what's your thoughts on that move? It seemed to get Wingo going, and do you expect him to maybe stay in that 5 spot here for the short term?
I don't. I would expect that they kind of just wanted to move him out of there just to give him a new look, maybe take some pressure off of him. Dalton had been slumping. But I think if it all works out, they want him to bat second. They want to get him more at-bats. In baseball now, you want to put your best hitters not, maybe second or third, and sometimes, most likely second. You see that a lot with guys like Mike Trout. And so Dalton Wingo, I still believe, is this team's best overall producer, best hitter, whatever you want to call it. He's the guy that really won that 2-hole. But I mean, he just hadn't been producing, so they moved him down a couple slots. Yeah, it worked out, but I don't think they won't take away the at-bats that he would give them later on in the year. So I expect him to move up pretty short order.
UCF will host Butler out of the Big East, and really a game to watch. And I know you're going to be there Friday night. That's going to be a heck of a game here, folks. This is where people haven't heard of Butler baseball and it's all that, but Friday nights is a dangerous game. Butler will be throwing their ace, Connor Schultz, more than likely. I haven't seen Butler's announcement in the rotation as we record this on Thursday, but I would assume Connor Schultz is the preseason pick to win the Big East Pitcher of the Year. He was D1 baseball's pick to be the Big East Pitcher of the Year. Some of the draft people think he's going to be draftable. He's going to be drafted depending on how the year he has. He could be a day 2 draft pick in MLB draft. I don't know if you've read more. I don't know if you've read more up on Schultz there, Murph, but what's your thoughts overall in this series here against Butler?
No, I'm actually looking up to see if they actually announced that. I'm sure they probably have, but I'm looking right now. I'd be interested to see what Colton Gordon does in that start, too, because he did have a bit of an issue with CSUN, got hit around, got attacked early in that game against CSUN last Friday. He really couldn't put guys away with 2 strikes. So he really needs a rebound against Butler. But no, I mean, we'll see. I think this UCF team right now is just playing with a ton of confidence. No matter what they do, if they don't have a game in which their offense isn't clicking, they can rely on that pitching to really shut opponents down. And then maybe if they give up a few runs, this is a team that's shown they can score, 10 to 12. So everything is just working right now. And so obviously spirits are high, and I'm looking forward to another great weekend out there. Butler's
coming off winning on Tuesday night over St. Francis, scoring a 22-4 win over St. Francis. So they'll have some confidence.
Don't run in college baseball.
No, they don't. So UCF and Butler this weekend, we'll monitor that. But baseball off to a great start, but can't look ahead because after Butler, a big midweek game, Murph, real quick. We'll talk about this in our next episode more in depth, but don't get caught looking ahead because you got Miami coming in, which is going to be big. Top 25 showdown at the John on Wednesday night coming up. Absolutely, and this is a Miami team that, I believe they're still in the top 10. Yep.
Correct? Even though they are, D1 baseball has them at 7, even though they got swept against Florida. And by the way, Florida, is the best team in the country, so there's that. they got swept out against Florida, and all those games, two of those games I believe were really close. I mean, this is arguably one of the best teams in the country, and they've shown that they can compete with the best. So now they come to UCF, where UCF has to deal with the pressure. I guess some pressure of being a ranked team facing another ranked team. This is going to be a huge test in your own building. Yeah, you did it at Auburn, but back then you were kind of the upstart looking to pull the upset. Now there's more expected of you once you got that number next to your name. So it's going to be quite an atmosphere too. Fans are going to pack the stadium for both schools. It's going to be a great atmosphere on Wednesday night. I will not be there.
Oh, we'll miss you, Murph.
I have to catch a plane to Fort Worth. But anyway, we'll talk about that before I leave.
Yes, we will do more of that. Of course, UCF, Miami, Florida, and Florida State, 4 teams ranked in the top 25 in college baseball in the state of Florida, with Florida, Florida State, Miami, UCF. It's a great baseball state. It's a great softball state. There's 3 teams in the top 25 in softball this week, with, of course, Florida and Florida State, as usual, and UCF. UCF ranked in every poll in college softball, just like college baseball. There's way too many polls, so I'm a fair equal ripper. And
Eric, what do the polls mean ultimately?
Nothing at the end. It doesn't mean anything. UCF, depending on where you look, they're ranked 22nd in the NFCA poll and in the USA ESPN softball poll, 21st in the Softball America poll, and then 24th in D1 softball. They hosted Florida State on Wednesday night at the Plex, and their 11-game winning streak came to an end, losing 8-3 to Florida State. It was a game that was not really didn't really go well for the Knights. Knowles got a run in the 3rd inning, then 2 runs in the 5th on back-to-back homers. UCF kind of got a rally going in the 7th inning, scoring 3 runs, but fell short 8-3. And now we'll head out west, and for what is going to be a remarkable road trip. This is the first of 4. They'll be playing 14 games on the road, 11 of them. Or I think 8 of them, actually, out west. They're going to be hosting Michigan. They'll be playing Michigan, who's ranked 16th in the country on Friday, followed by playing the number 1 ranked team in the country, the defending national champion UCLA Bruins. That's all at UCLA, by the way, on Friday. Saturday, they're going to be playing in Long Beach, California. Now, explain this to me, Murph. You're a California guy. So they're playing at UCLA on Friday night. Yeah. Then they're going to play in Long Beach on Saturday.
Yes.
How long? What's the mileage distance there?
Assuming there's no traffic, about 40 minutes.
All right. So that's what they'll be doing on Saturday when they play Cal State Fullerton and then the host team Long Beach State on Saturday. Then Sunday, by the way, Fullerton is the Big West champion. And so they're really a team that's receiving votes. Then Sunday, they'll be playing San Diego State on Sunday, and then nationally ranked Minnesota in Long Beach. Then on Monday, they'll go to CSUN. They'll go to Cal State Northridge campus. I don't know, how far is Northridge from Long Beach, Murph?
So Northridge is north of UCLA. So UCLA is about 20 minutes south of Northridge, and Long Beach is about an hour or 10 minutes south of Northridge.
Wow.
So there you go.
Well, they'll be on campus against CSUN for a Monday night game. Then from there, they'll go to Fullerton to take on Cal State Fullerton on Wednesday. Murph?
Well, from Northridge, it's not too far. Depends on where you're coming from, but fun to see that UCF's getting in some great sightseeing in Southern California. Great time to do this.
That's correct. That's what they'll be doing during this West Coast trip. And then, oh, by the way, they'll fly out to Oxford, Mississippi for a weekend series after that, before conference play starts against Wichita State on that. So that's kind of the road trip ahead, and we're going to learn a lot about this team. That's going to be a tough test. A lot of marquee games there. So I think people ask me what to expect from it. If they can go 500 in that trip, sign me up. I'll take it right now. Just give it to me. I mean, that's it. I mean, there's been a lot of good teams that do those similar type schedules and don't have a good record coming out of it. But I think they'll be a lot better for it once conference starts. I think that's going to be the key there. And, one of the things that they got to do better of is, on the Wednesday night game, I mentioned on the broadcast, Murph, UCF softball going into the Florida State game had a 4-to-1 K-to-walk ratio as a pitching staff. That was 12th best in the country. Florida State had a 3-to-1 strikeout-to-walk ratio. That was 25th best in the country. I thought that was a key matchup. Both teams don't want to give free passes because both teams have power in the lineup, and that would spell trouble. Well, unfortunately for UCF pitching, they had a home plate umpire named Anthony Small. And you would guess what the size of the strike zone was. Not big. UCF had 7 walks as a pitching staff and struck out 4. FSU, I believe, had 2 walks and 5 strikeouts and helped give FSU more base runners, and as a result, they got the 8-3 victory. Aaliyah White has never had good history with Anthony Small. I don't know. There's a parallel to that in baseball, in major leagues, Murph, where there's a pitcher and the umpire that just anytime they see that umpire, it's just not a good fit. I don't know what comparison I can make. It would be like if Tom Glavine or Greg Maddux in his heyday got an umpire, they wouldn't give him the outside corner. That would be kind of the comparison.
How about anybody playing or any pitcher with Joe West behind the plate? How about that? Or Angel Hernandez?
Very good. Well, Anthony Small qualifies for all that. That's very good. So that's kind of the short story of the Florida State game. Greg Lovelady was there in attendance, by the way, at the game for a little bit, as I mentioned earlier, McKenzie Milton and a lot of the football players. So great to see all the teams kind of supporting each other on campus. We have 4 ranked teams right now, Murph, currently, with baseball, softball, women's, and men's tennis ranked in the top 25 as well. That's never happened before at UCF. So pretty good spring for the Knights to this point.
Pay attention to these sports and maybe care a skosh less about spring football.
You mean you don't want people to click on your video of Dillon Gabriel on Twitter? Come on.
I mean, click. That's fine. I'm here for the content. But put it in perspective, we've got teams playing games that matter right now who are nationally ranked. Let's not all just focus in on something that won't mean anything for the next 6 months.
There you go. A team that's not ranked but is looking to make it to the NCAA Tournament is UCF Women's Basketball. They begin playing the American Conference Women's Basketball Tournament this weekend. What do they have to do to get to the NCAA? We'll tell you about that next as we wrap up this edition of the Black and Gold Banneret. And welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We'll wrap it up right here. Eric Lopez alongside Brian Murphy. Well, UCF Women's Basketball are going to be in Connecticut this weekend as the Women's Basketball Championship Tournament taking place for the last time, Murph, at the Mohegan Sun. No more casinos for your women's basketball tournament as UConn obviously departing the American, leaving for the Big East. So that will be interesting to see what they do with the tournament moving forward. But in the meantime, UCF will be the 2 seed. They blew out Wichita State on Monday night behind a career-high 37 points from KK Wright as the Knights locked up the 2 seed there. They're going to be playing on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN3, and they will be playing the winner of Wichita State and Houston. The big thing, Murph, and you brought this up on social media on Monday when it happened, is UCF did what they had to do in the regular season, win out. They get the 2 seed, which means they're on the opposite bracket of UConn.
I mean, this is even what UCF did last year, where you could tell how much it meant to them just to get to the final to face UConn. UCF's goal in this conference tournament is not to beat UConn, and I think Coach Abe has been very honest and open with that. When they face UConn, you can't go in here really expecting to beat them because they're just so much better than everyone else. But if you get the chance to get to play them in the final of the conference tournament, you've won. You've succeeded, and I think you saw that last year when they were really excited when that happened. I remember last year when they were really, she was pumped when they got to the final of that tournament. And they should, with the quality of this team, they should get there again.
Well, and I think they're going to have to make the NCAA tournament. Now, as of Thursday, UCF is 37 is their RPI. They're 37 in the RPI. ESPN women's basketball bracketologist Charlie Cream has them as one of the last 4 in. One of the issues, though, Murph, is the league is down this year. So really, outside of UConn, there's no quote-unquote quality wins. There's no top 50 wins UCF can get in this tournament outside of, if they pull the upset against UConn, which would be irrelevant at that point because that would be the automatic bid. So I still think they're going to have to get to the final, I think, to feel good about making the NCAA tournament, despite how well they've been playing. And, of course, if they were to get to the semifinals, they would more than likely play Cincinnati, who's the 3 seed. And they've split the regular season matchups. That's not going to be a cakewalk. Cincinnati is going to be playing the winner of SMU and Memphis. More than likely it would be SMU on that. South Florida, they have the bad draw of being the 4 seed. They got destroyed by UConn on Monday. And if they win if they get to the semis, they'll play UConn again. So I think they've been playing much better defense. I think they found their identity, has UCF defensively. KK Wright, to me, I've gone on record, Murph, saying I think she's the greatest UCF women's basketball player of all time. You look at the numbers, she's like near the top in a lot of the meaningful categories in UCF women's basketball history. She's going to be part of 4 postseason teams for UCF. The only question is, will it be 2 NCAA tournament teams and 2 NITs, or 3 NITs and 1 NCAA? But regardless, I think she's the greatest player. And it'd be great to see her kind of end on a high note and be in the NCAA tournament. The interesting thing is there are no Florida teams right now projected to host in the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. So if they're going to make the tournament, they're going to go somewhere. In fact, Charlie Cream has them going to Raleigh in Carolina, which might be maybe the closest from geography. I'm going to go back to you for more geography, Murph, because you did such a stellar job last segment breaking down softball's map in California. Is Raleigh probably the closest you can, from all the teams that Charlie Cream is hosting? It's probably Raleigh, right? You've done that drive to Carolina.
I almost drove to Raleigh. Raleigh, I think, is a little further away than Greenville. So I don't know if you're driving there. I think it's like a 9-hour drive, is it not?
Yeah, so it's probably a short flight. You got to take a flight.
I hope not driving. Yeah, let's not drive there.
No, they'll fly. But NCAA will find a nice cheap flight. That's what they like to do over there. But we'll see what happens. But they got to get to the final, Murph. I don't feel comfortable if they lose in the opening round or in the semis. They're going to sweat it out on Selection Monday in a couple of weeks when they do the selection show. Hopefully, it won't get actually come out before it's supposed to come out this time around, like last year.
I was just going to say, if UCF makes it to the final and somehow makes it into the tournament, will they find out they're in the tournament 3 hours before the bracket is supposed to be revealed?
That's a great question. Let's hope for the best for their sake. That was really awkward. You and I covered that. That was really awkward because it leaked out. People were trying to figure out if it was real, and then they found out, it was real, and then it was kind of scramble mode, and then they were like, well, let's pretend we don't know what happened, and that didn't work, and they just said, all right, screw it, we know.
They still held a watch party.
They did.
As they watched the selection show, even though everybody who was in the tournament already knew whether or not they were in the tournament. So it was great. It's fantastic.
Let me give you your thoughts on this. First of all, do you agree with me? Get to the final, and then you'll be in the tournament. You lose before the final, it could be dicey. Do you buy that?
I didn't know the strength. Be fair, I didn't know the strength of the bubble, but knowing that this conference is not very good, past UConn and UCF and Cincinnati, kind of. They need and being the last 4 in now. Yeah, if you want to feel. If you want to feel it's somewhat safe, you need to win 2 games here to get to the final and then try to fight your best against UConn.
And play a good game against UConn. They've played UConn well 2 meetings this year. They only lost, I think, by 12 at UConn the last time. We were there when they lost by 7 at home. If you play a game like that, that's going to impress the pollsters even more on that.
And, I know UConn, the women have really kind of found their stride a little bit as well. They've really just dominated opponents recently since they played here. And, We've talked about how this isn't one of your usual UConn teams that steamrolls everybody. So, there's a chance, certainly, that UCF can have another single-digit game against UConn. I think that matters. I think that matters somewhat if you're taking their profile into account.
I agree. And we'll see what happens with that. Follow that up on UCFKnights.com for all the latest there in the tournament going. A couple of other notes on the tournament here, and I was talking to some people about this. As I mentioned, this is the last time UConn, obviously, is hosting the American Conference Women's Basketball Championship. Do you believe, Murph, that the women's basketball will follow the men and just have it in Fort Worth? Not necessarily at the same time as the men, but a week earlier, but still, just have it in Fort Worth because the league is having the men's basketball championship, I believe, the next 3 years there?
Yeah, 21, 22.
So clearly they have a sweet deal, I'm guessing, with the arena there, and we'll get into more of that in our next episode. But do you think the women's will follow suit, or do you think they'll rotate it to different places?
So I think what's interesting to me, I didn't know this, you're telling me they don't know where they're playing next year's conference championship yet? I mean, really? They don't know where they're playing a year from now?
Well, not as of right now.
That is nuts.
Now, maybe, unless if they do, they haven't told anybody. Maybe they're
that's stupid. I mean, we know where the men are playing for the next 3 years.
Well, I don't think they were planning on UConn departing. I think they were
maybe not.
No, because I do think there was going to be at the they loved it there, right there at the Mohegan Sun, because they drew big crowds. Let's be honest, because UConn fans build the place. That was going to be there for the foreseeable future, and now that's kind of been pulled under the rug. So I think now it's like, what do the coaches want to do as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, you're not going to go anywhere else in this conference and get anywhere close to the crowds that you get at UConn. That's understandable. I assume that hosting it at the regular season champion is out of the question.
Probably. Yeah, they like to do it way in advance. Don't ask me why, but they do. That's what these leagues like to do. So I don't see them doing that. I think it's going to be Fort Worth, because I think it's just going to be a package deal on that, in my opinion, on that. One other thing. Do you believe in a conspiracy theory? Do the coaches shut out UConn from some of these awards? In other words, does Gino Auriemma, for example, get shut out of Coach of the Year and they give it to somebody else, whether it be Abe or the Cincinnati head coach? I think those are your contenders for Coach of the Year. Does KK Wright have an outside shot of maybe winning the Player of the Year or sharing it with a UConn player? Any of that shenanigans do you think happens, or do you think UConn just sweeps the awards?
Yeah, why would the UConn? I mean, why would Gino win Coach of the Year in a year in which they went 26-3? I mean, for UConn, that's not great. Which I know is nuts to say, but still, I would still try to give it to someone that feels more deserving, has done more with less. So maybe so. Player of the Year, I don't know how it doesn't go to someone on UConn still. I mean, their players are still ridiculously good. KK is probably second. If second, maybe third then, because there's probably two UConn players that could share the vote more than KK. But no, I would be surprised if I would be surprised if Gino Auriemma got Coach of the Year.
Hot take, Murph, going after Gino.
Is that a hot take?
He won the league. You know how I'm going to tell you why. These coaches, man, they always vote for the coaches that win the league, even if they have the best team by a mile. And I've argued about this with coaches in different sports. Like, why don't just automatically give it to the coach that won the league? Look across the board. Abe has had to replace a lot of players. It's not like this was a returning veteran team. Now, I think what's going to hurt Abe unfairly is, you have KK. So I think that's why she probably won't win. If I had to guess, I'm thinking the Cincinnati head coach might win that, or at least share it with Gino. I just don't think coaches have the same thinking process that you do when it comes to that. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Well, I love how the thinking process penalizes Abe because she has KK, but then it doesn't penalize Gino for having Olympians and McDonald's All-Americans.
I know. It's women's basketball, everybody. That's how they work. So hopefully Abe gets it. She has not won, believe it or not, Coach of the Year in the league, which is, to me, is just ridiculous with the job she's done.
If there's any year, I know that UConn still didn't lose in the league, but if there's any year in which UConn didn't deserve to win Coach of the Year, isn't this kind of the year? Certainly since they've been in the AAC, this is the most vulnerable they have been at points in this season than they ever have in this conference. So I don't understand giving him the Coach of the Year because he did a good job with a roster that he should have been great. Fine.
There you go. You heard it, Murph. Don't give it to Gino, you coaches. Listen to Murph on that.
I'm going back to baseball.
But speaking of which, by the way, I did a lousy job of this. I did not bring this up during the baseball segment. That's my fault. That's an error on me. You mentioned how conferences take forever about figuring things out. Well, in baseball, big news this week, Murph. Baseball. I think Baseball America was the first to report it. How is the baseball league going to make up the 3 games they're going to lose with UConn departing? Well, we now know the answer, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So for the next couple of seasons, the 8 teams in the American will be split into basically split down the middle. 4 teams go to USF, and 4 teams come to UCF, in which those teams will play a round-robin tournament on the first weekend of conference play. This is how the AAC will make up the 3 games that those teams lose with UConn leaving the league. So they'll have, we're not exactly sure which teams are going where or, when exactly, as far as what the schedule looks like. But 4 teams at UCF, 4 teams at USF, playing each other a game a day throughout the entire weekend. And that's how we pick up 3 extra games. I think it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And if you're UCF, you got to like it because it gives you another home series. I mean, basically gives you another home series. But there's a lot to be worked out. We talked about with Greg Lovelady on Tuesday. He did say the coaches have voted unanimously for it. But there's still a lot of details to be worked out. But that is going to happen starting next season.
It reminds me a lot of the how UCF opened the 2018 baseball season, right, Murph? When UCF hosted Rice, Virginia, and Sanford.
That's good, yeah.
14 defeat tournaments. So you have 2 games a day, and we'll have that in the American. And I think if the American does this properly, will be a great way to kind of promote the league, which is a top 5 league in the sport. It'd be a great league to kind of promote the league and the competition. And I thought what Greg said about it on Tuesday was fascinating about the reason to do it at the beginning of the year is to kind of eliminate the gamesmanship of it, right? Like, because if you do it later in the year, some guys may not throw certain guys and things like that. And they didn't want to do what they did in the past, which was, hey, you play a common opponent 6 times in the year, like UCF USF used to play 6 times prior to Wichita State arriving. The league didn't want to do that either, correct?
No, absolutely. So, I think it's for 2021, 2022. I think it's only 2 years. It could go up to 6 years, but they're just unsure yet.
Yeah, they kind of want to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I remember when Virginia was here, they were ranked. Rice with Wayne Graham in his final season played here, and that was a fun weekend. And so, yeah, it'll be fun to have that kind of just a different wrinkle to the conference schedule. And like I said, hopefully it's something that the conference can promote, because when you've got UCF and Tulane, East Carolina is always a powerhouse. USF is traditionally pretty good. Cincinnati won the conference last year. Wichita State should be decent. There's some really, really good teams in this conference. If we're talking about the power conferences in baseball, this is a power conference. And so to have, this sort of event where it's not just a normal conference weekend, but you have a different opponent every day, hopefully the conference can do some decent promotions for it.
Right, and that's their best way, too, by the way, to get better RPI games, is you're just getting more conference games as well. So that should be a lot of fun. Hey, look, it's more baseball, right? Like, who's going to complain about that?
Right. 2 games a day. Who doesn't love it? I mean, we don't know who's going where or how they're going to decide.
That's going to be fun. I do want to know how they figure that out.
I mean, do you go by preseason RPI or like last season RPI or preseason coaches poll? Like, what do you do? And then, all that can go haywire, because if you have a team who's expected to do well, who starts out poorly, and then you can end up with a accidentally unbalanced schedule for one team or a series of teams. But I don't know how they want to say they want to have a balanced schedule for these things. I just don't know how you're going to do that, 3-4 weeks into the season.
We'll see how they figure all that out. Time will go, and I'm sure we'll get more information as that comes out in the coming days, weeks, whenever they kind of sort that out. That might be one of those things they don't figure it out until the offseason.
Well, Greg Lovelady said they're supposed to be getting a schedule for this week.
Oh, really?
And then he added that they said that also 4 months ago.
Oh, well, there you go. See, and you were wondering why they haven't figured out where they're going to host the women's basketball tournament next year.
Exactly.
Oh, man. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Quick note, women's tennis men's tennis ranked in the top in the top 25. They're on the road. They're at Texas Tech on Friday, who's also in the top 25. Big showdown. John Roddick facing an old Big 12 nemesis when he was back as the head coach at Oklahoma. And then they go to Memphis as they start conference play. Women's tennis, who's also in the top 25, they are at SMU on Saturday before they go to Baylor, who's ranked 27th. In Waco, March 10th, and then a big one, Sunday, March 15th, Texas comes to UCF. That's one of the bigger women's tennis matches of the year. So those are some of the quick hits on tennis. And, of course, you can check out all the updates on UCF Athletics on UCFKnights.com. And, of course, we follow everything on blackandgoldbanneret.com as well. Murph, tell the audience what you got working on here in the coming days.
Let's see. Well, we got baseball this weekend, right? We mentioned that, and then we'll be having our preview podcast for the AAC tournament, where we should the title for that podcast should be like American Athletic Conference Tournament. What? Like that's basically what this tournament's going to be. Just what? What? Huh?
Yeah, we're gonna have a special edition. We'll break down the tournament, the brackets. We'll record it either Monday or Tuesday. We just work around Murph's schedule. Whenever Murph says, "Hey, I want to record," then we just do it. That's usually how that works. Hopefully, Jeff may or may not be a part of it. We'll see.
I gotta go because I'm on deadline for something else right now.
There you go, Murph. So enjoy that. Follow us again, blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest there. Follow us on Twitter on Black_Banneret, of course. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite devices for the podcast and rate us and leave us a nice positive review on that. That's Brian Murphy. I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Black and Gold Banneret.